empty spot.
Okay, so if we're ready, then I'll go ahead and call this Board of Supervisors meeting to order, and I've asked Supervisor Ron Campbell to lead us in the pledge.
Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Campbell, and we are truly blessed to be Americans. With that, I'll go to agenda 1B, call to the public. Is there anyone that'd like to address the board and call to the public? Seeing none, then we'll go to agenda.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on, I did want to make one comment and call the public. Our landfill crew recently went through an inspection by ADEQ. No deficiencies whatsoever. That's pretty rare. And I think hats off to our folks who work out there. Landfill is one of those things you don't think about unless it goes wrong. But kudos to Dave Manus and his crew, and I hope he passes on. But I want to take just a minute to acknowledge their good work. And so anyway, thank you. I'm sorry I didn't think about it immediately.
Thank you. And also Supervisor Dave Gomez is with us via telephone, and we miss you, Dave. They don't have a picture of you, but you know, we got you burned in our memory.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll now go to agenda item 2, and the Board of Supervisors will convene as the Board of Directors of the Greeley County Public Health Service District. And after order of business, we'll reconvene as the Board of Supervisors. A consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as listed.
And I would second that. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We are now convened as the Board of Supervisors, and the Board of Supervisors will convene as the Board of Directors of the Greeley County Public Flood Control District, and after order of business, we'll reconvene as the Board of Supervisors. A consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as listed.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Motion passes. We are now convened as the Board of Supervisors. And we'll go to agenda item 3, and Irvin Talley, Greeley County Chief Probation Officer, and Derek Rapier, County Administrator, have the floor. Good morning.
Morning.
You look sharp
Morning.
today.
Thank you. It's a rarity, but thank you.
My eyes are going bad, you know.
Hey, I appreciate the board hearing my discussion today, and I just want to acknowledge that to the board and to the county administrators. Today I'm coming about funding, probation salary funding. It's an ongoing problem with our funding for probation. We are such a unique entity within government. Go to the next slide. You know, although we are a state funded, primarily state funded, we do we do identify with the county strongly. We agree with Greeley County. We appreciate the value and the people with the departments and the administration here. You've always been very helpful and very considerate to us since I've been here, and I really appreciate that. I want to express that. The problem is the administrative office of the courts has set the budgets for each probation office in the state based on the previous year's salaries and costs. So we're always operating a year behind, and I didn't, in my ignorance, I didn't realize this, and Derek had to explain it to me, that we are probably the only government department that operates that in that manner. The counties would fund the raises, which would then be funded by the following year by the state. That's traditionally how it's always been. was a year ago, I believe it was, they did a 2.5% raise would be covered by the state. And some wording was changed in legislation, which would be covered by the state, would be funded by the counties above and beyond that. And well, then at the beginning of last year, that was changed. They went back to the old system. There was problems throughout the state. They went back to the old system of funding, but let's go on to the next one. But they wouldn't guarantee, the state has been kind of hemming and hawing around about approving our budgets for the upcoming year. And it's been kind of a frustrating negotiation with the state. Because of that uncertainty, Greenlee County was hesitant about approving a raise for the probation department to take place as well. They're just a little skittish, and I understand that. I'm not holding any blame on the county for that. The probation department and the courts have identified funding within. We've found some funding within our own department that we can apply to help cover this raise. As we found some other sources too. If that raise is not approved, my budget is not approved this coming fiscal year, we have some contingencies in place where the county would not absorb that. They would not be a continual absorption. And with the discussions we've had with AOC, they wouldn't come out and directly say it, but kind of a nod and a wink. They wouldn't directly say it, but they've indicated that our budgets are going to approve, and I'm pretty confident that they're going to approve our budgets. They have never not approved our budgets, and so if they didn't, it would be a unique situation. The expected entire cost of a 5% raise would be about $23,000 with EREs for our staff. We're committed. We've pulled about the $3,166 that we can from the probation funds that we've been able to skim off here and there, and then the court has also dedicated approximately about $9,000 from some funds that that our judge has been able to free up that we can apply to help put some skin in this game as well. The county administration has indicated that there are funds in the general services that can be used in this purpose to help us come up with the rest of the money to support the raises. And in subsequent years, if the raise is not picked up by the state, we'll utilize the existing court probation funds to cover that. Again, if it's not covered, we're not going to come back and ask the state or the county to fund that. We are going to find a way to fund that ourselves if that budget is not approved. If we lose our probation officers, they're difficult to replace. And this is a kind of job where you can't it's hard to just step in and do it. There's a lot of training involved, learning how to maneuver the court process, learning how to, all the paperwork involved, and learning how to deal with individual needs. And it's quite a process. It takes months to get someone trained to where they can operate. And then, you're looking at a good year before someone's comfortable in their job. It's not an easy job there's a lot of training involved. All services that we provide, everything we do here is 100% goes to benefit this county, the people in this county, and those with problems. And on the other side, there is a possibility that the state is not going to, they will not backfill the funds. But like I said, we've identified ways to completely or almost completely mitigate that financial impact to the county. And I just want to extend again my appreciation to the county and the administration for working with me. You guys have been so wonderful in helping us, and this pickle that we've been placed in, my department has, and it's not just here, it's throughout the state. Every probation department's in this same boat, but this is an impossible situation, and we're working on correcting it, but it's going to take some time. I just want to express my gratitude to the county for working with us and helping us through this difficult time. We are fortunate to have good officers and employees who care about the community and strive diligently to meet their needs. Right now, we do have some very good employees, and they all work really hard, and they really care about the people in this community. And those people we work with, they have problems, they really want to see them succeed. And I'm asking the county to help us with this, so the officers can have sustainable wage. They just, and these costs of everything is going up exponentially, and this raise is really something they really need. And additionally, I believe the employees should feel appreciated for the work they do. And the need to correct this situation has been an ongoing discussion with the administrative office of the courts and with legislature. It's really both of those that we're having that discussion with. Myself, I am committed to taking this up with the probation leadership throughout the state. It's already been started the discussions, but I'm going to put the pedal to the metal on that, and we're going to get this going. I've also got some commitment from our presiding judge he's going to take this up with the courts side of things. So there'll be the probation, the courts, and see if we can't resolve this. And also I've been talking with the administration here for the county, and he is going to take this up with the CSA and see what they can do from their end. So we're going to be attacking this problem from different angles, and hopefully we can get something going here. I don't know when it'll happen, but it'll take some time. And once again, I want to thank everyone for their help and consideration, and just the respect that you've given us in my department. And I just want to thank you guys so very much.
Chairman, if I might.
Yes.
I appreciate Mr. Talley's thorough explanation of the concern. $23,000 more or less by itself is not going to break the bank for the county. The concern that we've been discussing for several months now is the structural change this represents. Now, to be honest, we've done this approach for years prior to the fiscal year 22 budget, where the county would front stuff and then the next year it would be backfilled. We were always a year behind, but that's been going on for years and years. The change was in fiscal year 22, the state legislature said, we're tired of AOC telling us how much we have to appropriate. So they sort of flipped the script and they said, we'll give it 2.5. If counties do more, then that's on you. We didn't. We stuck to the 2.5. This last fiscal year, so the fiscal year we're currently in, the legislature removed that language, and everybody has assumed that we're back to the old way of doing things. And I think there's a good chance that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But as Chairman Lunt and I met with Senator Gowan, we're not as certain as we were before the 2.5. So the 23,000 is really fairly small risk. And I've been extremely impressed that the courts and probation are putting skin in the game. They've mitigated the county's risk by half or more. I would hate the board to feel like we didn't explain the risks. The bigger concern is the structural change. But we've already met with Senator Gowan, CSA. This is one of their legislative priorities for the year. I know that this is a concern with chief probation officers around the state. We talk about sustainability. If you lose these core people, the entire cost of the criminal justice system goes up because it's much more expensive to incarcerate than it is to reform and rehabilitate through a probation model. And so my recommendation is that we do this partnership, that we go in, that we front the money, we take the risk. The assurances we've received from the courts and probation is that if this doesn't work out, they will find money in their budget to sustain this. And in the meantime, we are already working, we'll continue to work to bring a permanent fix to the way this is done. This really is bad government. It's like someone once said, trying to stuff a turkey through the beak. It's backwards. And I think most people recognize that. And so we'll be working diligently to try and do it. But my recommendation is that we allow county funds. Now, the source of this is that back during the pandemic, we built in to our budget, our general services, something that was called a merit reserve. It was just some cushion in case we needed to make some adjustments mid-year. We've kept that there, and this would be an appropriate use of that fund. This will not wipe out that fund, but we do have the budget capacity and it's appropriate use of that fund. So my recommendation to the board is that we partner with them and fund these raises backdating to the beginning of the fiscal year.
Go ahead. Just really quick. I just wanted to, I fully agree with that approach. But I wanted to say that you even mentioned that probation has always been handled differently, right? I mean, they're kind of county employees, you know what I mean, but they're not. They're state employees. They're state employees, but they're part of our Greenlee County family, right? And so that's why I think is important to note that we feel that way, that those probation officers are part of Greenlee County and they are part of our team, part of our family. And I think it makes total sense to make it right and reward them for a job well done and continue to work on retaining, you know. I think that's retention is huge. So
Thank you. We appreciate that sentiment. Thank you very much.
David, you have any comments?
Yeah, no, I concur with those comments. Absolutely. They are part of this county and some job, and we need to make sure that we hold up to our end of the deal as it's happened in the past. And I agree with what Derek presented.
Okay, I just have, so we're not really exposed to the $23,166.36. We've got 9,000 from the courts and a little over 3,000. So really our exposure for this year would be between $11,000 and $12,000. Is that, I mean, that came
That's
through it.
correct.
And I appreciate that in working that. And I know there are concerns with the legislative side of this because like Derek said, we did talk to Senator Gowan and he's generally been a really pulled in favor of a lot of things. CSA, they understand it fully and they understand the predicament it puts the county and also the probation departments in. So, but I agree. I think it's a good thing. It takes a lot of money to train new employees and we've got some good ones. And so with that, if there's no more discussion, what do we actually need here, Dan?
Can I suggest a motion?
Sure.
I would suggest the motion be something along the lines of that you move to approve the funding for probation officer, for the probation department raises at 5% with the amounts outlined by Mr. Talley in his presentation, with the remainder coming from the county's general services fund. And you can say so moved.
I'm gonna say, well, first, I just wanted to make a comment that we will be at CSA next week and Greenlee County will be supporting this initiative to make sure that the County Supervisors Association really support this on the legislative side to make this change going forward. And so, we'll be doing that. And with that, so moved.
I second that motion.
Here we have a second and a motion and a second. Would someone like to repeat the motion?
I was trying to write down, but it was talking so fast. I'm like, all right.
Anyway, I would just like to say, Mr. Tanner, thank you. I know this has been, you've been working on this, you and the Superior Court judge here have been working on this for several months and I feel for your employees to be left out in limbo. That is not a good feeling. And I want you to know that we've always tried to do what's right, and I think this is what's right. So with that, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That an aye from David?
Yeah, aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. And once
Aye.
again, thank you. We will now go to agenda item 5. Monica Miller, Clifton Social Club President. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Monica Miller, president of the Social Club. We have just taken on the Social Club a year ago, and we're moving quickly, but the town of Clifton used to do the Festival of Lights, and they are no longer doing it. So the Social Club was approached. We immediately formed a committee. Our committee chair is Medina Morales, and we are coming here to the county to see if we can get some donations to keep the tradition going. So I'm going to hand it over to Marina.
Chairman Lunt, Mr. Campbell, good morning.
Morning.
I am the chairman for the Festival of Lights. Barbara Reyes is part of our committee, as well as Monica. We are the Social Club is a nonprofit organization, and we, like Monica said, decided to take on the role of keeping the tradition of the Festival of Lights. We are starting with a zero budget. We do have a little bit of funding that the town is giving us that has been rolled over from the previous year. That won't cover what we have planned for this year for the festival. The festival, I don't know if anybody knows, has been, this is the 27th year of the Festival of Lights. We have festival goers that come from near and far to celebrate with us, whether it be shopping for Christmas, visiting community members, or enjoying the delicious food from many of the local vendors that are in our community. We're planning on having a parade at the end of the evening to close off our celebration. We this year are needing assistance with the jumping balloon, the kids zone, trying to make it feel more festive. Our theme this year is a Merry Grinchmas. We're trying to incorporate the Grinch and Whoville type feel just for the kids and make it more festive. We're hoping that we're able to pull this off again and keep it a tradition within the Social Club to come for many years. I know I've lived here for 40+ years, and that is always one of my favorite traditions to look forward to is the Festival of Lights.
Okay.
Barbara?
Do you have a budget or know
I-
more or less what your costs are going to be? Because that would be very helpful.
I do.
Actually, I've attended every Parade of Lights since I moved here in '95. So it's kind of neat, and I see family, people that have come from, lived here and they come back. They always enjoy it. It brought tears.
Never apologize for caring. Right.
We have an awesome committee. We actually met last night at 6 p.m. and our meetings are they're very informative. A lot of community members have a lot of really good ideas. We want to try to keep the same traditions, but we also want to start new ones.
Yes, please.
So it looks like your current budget to make this a successful event, about it's 7,850, is that right?
Yes.
7,850. How much was your carry forward? I mean, I'm assuming that Town of Clifton had something from last year that carried forward to you this year. What did you start with? Like, what's the gap, I guess, what I'm looking for?
The town of Clifton presented me a check yesterday, but they took it back because the mayor didn't sign it. So they are graciously giving us 4,000.
Okay.
1,000.
Yes, and then they're also taking out of that 4,000, they're taking the 15 for the electrical through EA And then we also have insurance that we have to pay for the whole festival itself.
And we are also opening up more events. We're trying to do a run for the kids.
Mhm.
Or that's not on there. I think I just got a text from Terry who looked into insurance. That's another $150 for insurance for that event. So we're trying to. Our mentality is to try and make it happen, but if we can make it more eventful for the children and everybody and all of Green County to know that there's still something going on, it's gonna have to grow also.
No, I love the event and we've been there, been there 17 years, not as long as some of you, but still it's home and we always enjoy the Festival of Lights and it's wonderful. My question is the ask, is it a one-time ask? Do you feel that you're going to be, self-sustainable, going forward? Just kind of curious how you plan that will work for next year. Do you think you'll raise enough, during this process or during this to be able to fund the next year?
Absolutely. I believe that with us being able to fund, being that we've taken it on in such a short period of time, I believe next year, come January, we can hit the floor running, do fundraising, be able to take this on next December
Yeah.
without having to ask, hopefully with no assistance.
Especially with your nonprofit status. I mean,
Right.
that's huge. And there's a lot of folks in this community that work in this community and or support the mine and everything that
Right.
would love to be able to donate. While it's a nonprofit, right, that they can get that tax write-off. So
I think our biggest thing is it's such a short notice of time.
Yeah.
That we're like, okay, let's do it. Let's make the best and.
so you need a little help to get started. I get it.
And so what's the ask?
whatever you-
I'm going to, I get to the point.
Just don't take it back though.
Is it the, let's see, $3,800? Is that what you're asking for?
That's, I
Yeah,
don't know.
4,000, I think
Yeah.
38. Mr. Gomez, you have any comments?
I agree with everything that has been said. All I want to say is I'd like to thank the social club and all the ladies that have stepped up to continue this great event. As everybody acknowledges that it has been a great event for the town of Clifton and for everyone that shows up. So that's what I have to say right now. I guess are we gonna make a decision in the near future on what we're gonna donate?
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Yes, go ahead.
This was only agendized for a presentation. With the board's permission, perhaps staff can work with the committee and come up with an exact recommendation. I know the town of Clifton has offered quite a bit of in-kind. Law enforcement, they've got booths that they're fixing up. There's some, I think there's a mobile stage or something. And so, but with the board's direction, staff would be glad to work with the committee and come back to you with a recommendation on an exact donation amount. Would that work for your committee?
Sure.
Because like I said, we're not set for a decision today.
And I see that, sorry about that,
oh,
but
that's fine.
I'd like to give kudos to you ladies. You ever heard of the STP, the same 10 people? It seems like Barbara and you guys are always here making events happen for the betterment of the community and the county, and we appreciate it. Please, it doesn't go unnoticed. And we appreciate the efforts because it's sort of like the little red hen, the little red hen's doing all the work and everybody wants to step up when all the work's done but thank you.
I just had a real quick question. Is there an immediate need? Is there an immediate need for the funds? Or if this goes on a
November.
couple of weeks, is that all right?
A couple weeks.
Yeah, because we have to get the insurance paid and we have to get the permit from ADOT we have to pay for that to be able to get our permit to present to the town that all of our ducks are in a row, ready to go.
Okay. Okay, well, then we can bring it back. I just didn't want the delay to be a detriment.
No.
And so if that was going to be, then I was going to talk to Derek.
Yeah.
One, do we have a?
Yeah,
Do we have a pot? Do we have?
That's my question.
Do we have a little bag somewhere?
We're looking at all the corners and getting the quarters out of the couch cushions. But I can work with the committee and then I can come back and give some recommendations of where this might well suit
Okay.
to come from.
Well, we're fully supportive of the Festival of Lights. We wanted to
Thank you
make it
very
happen, and
much.
thank you for all you do to continue with this tradition. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now go to agenda item 6. Eric.
Mr.
Oh.
Bejarano is on Zoom, yeah.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Perfect. Good morning, gentlemen. It's always a pleasure to speak with our elected officials and community leaders of the counties we serve. My name is Eric Bejarano. I serve as the director of the Small Business Development Center at Eastern Arizona College. And I apologize, I tried to get on video, but it's not allowing me. As the oldest SPDC in the state, having existed since 1988, we serve the residents of Greenlee, Graham, and Gila counties with no cost one-on-one confidential business counseling services with offices located in Thatcher, Globe, and Payson. We help launch, grow, and sustain small businesses. With that said, this year we have brought back an amazing program to recognize our women small business owners. October is National Women's Small Business Month. And while COVID put a hold on our recognition program, we've brought it back. And we've brought back our recognition of women-owned small business owners, and we'll celebrate them at an event later this month. We have grown this program to not only include Greenlee and Graham County, but we're also including Gila County this year. Therefore, our office has submitted a proclamation to Greenlee County for consideration of approval to celebrate October as National Women's Small Business Month. And at this time, I believe you may have the proclamation, and I'm not sure if you'd like me to read it
Yes.
to the board or if that'll be read within the meeting there.
We do have, Mr. Bejarano, we do have the proclamation. The board is actually looking at it even as we speak.
Thank you, sir.
yeah, I read it last night. Do we need to read it so it goes into record or can we just?
If you adopt it, it would be part of the record. You can certainly read it on for those who may be on YouTube or whatever, but it'll certainly be part of the record regardless.
Would you mind reading it, Ron? Thank you very much.
So it's a proclamation for National Women's Small Business Month, October 2023. Whereas working women constitute 72 million or almost half of the nation's workforce and strive to serve their communities, their states, and their nation in professional, civic, and cultural capacities. And whereas there are more than 12 million women-owned businesses in the United States, generating 2.1 trillion in sales and employing 10.1 million people. And whereas working women should be applauded for their contributions to the workplace and the financial stability of their families, especially during the economic downturn, when more women have become their family's breadwinner. And whereas a central purpose of this month is to promote equality for all women and to help create better conditions for working women through the study and advocacy of social, educational, and economic issues impacting women in the workplace. And whereas the Eastern Arizona College Small Business Development Center, Gila Valley Small Business Woman of the Year Committee recognizes women business owners in Graham, Greenlee, and Gila counties through its annual Gila Valley Small Business Woman of the Year Award on October the 24th. Therefore, I, Richard Lunt, Chairman of the Greenlee County Board of Supervisors, by the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim October 2023 National Women's Small Business Month. And that is what it says.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? If not, a motion would be in order.
Well, I move that we approve of the adoption of the proclamation regarding National Women's Small Business Month as presented.
And I second that motion.
A motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Motion passes. Once again, thank you very, very much. And yes, women are do a lot for this country, our society, and we appreciate them being recognized.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for allowing me to join virtually. Have a great day.
You do the same.
Thank you.
7 will go to Tony Hines, Public Works, Fleet Facilities, and Derek Repair, County Administrator. Mr. Hines.
Good morning, Tony Hines, Fleet Manager. Have a presentation here. In August, the first meeting of August, the sheriff had presented the board with a outline of some stuff that was taken pictures of him, by him from the shop. This is a response to those that Supervisor Campbell had asked for. So go back to the first one. This was a notice on the date on this that he had it since the end of July, and he got presented for the beginning of August. So these pictures that are coming up are pictures that he took apparently while taking out the GPS units. So next one. He found a seat that was not latched in the back. I did talk to the mechanic and he said it was latched when he finished up the install, so we're not sure where that happened. And we're not really pointing fingers or anything here. We're just explaining on what the pictures are saying. So next one. So these are some pictures of wiring that was done in some of the vehicles. On the top left up here, you can see there's some wires that are dead ended. Manufacturers do that. The wiring harnesses that they put in are for like a fully upfitted car. If it's not being used, it's just dead ended there. That's a natural practice. The next one is a hot wire exposed. We don't know if that was hot or not. I don't know if it was tested at any time or not, but some of the other pictures just show how he calls the bad wiring. We're not sure where it came from. It could have came from the upfitters, but normally it's not stuff that we would install. We would repair if it does, and if these are our repairs, then we'll fix them. So next slide. So this one is a tap in, and they sell wires that can get tapped in. We tap into wires, all the time. The key to that is to finding out what that wire is running before you tap into it. If it's something that can handle the voltage or the amperage, then we'll do it. If not, we'll go to another one. So these are some stuff that I just found online. It's mostly on YouTube, but it's people that put out there on the proper way to twist wires and everything. So that's mainly what we follow. There's many ways to do it. People do it in different ways. There's really no right or wrong way to do it as long as they're connected and they're not loosening up. Some more of that. And this is kind of goes back to the other thing. If we tap into a hot wire, if you separate them and slide that through there, that's going to be fine as long as it doesn't loosen up and cause heat or anything like that. Soldering onto other wires is still a common practice. That was covered with a boot or tape, one or the other. Same with that one. It's perfectly fine. Tapping into fuses. You can tap into fuses anywhere at any time. It just depends on what fuse you're tapping into. If we go in and tap into it, it should be something that's not an essential circuit that's going to affect it if we do tap into it with something that's more, but it's usually the same amperage or whatever, or lower amperage that we use. A radio, a dome light or something like that is usually where we're going to do it. But they do sell things that are called fuse taps. They go into the spades and everything attached to it. So see on the next picture. Another one like that. Go to the next one. This is one that has a wire soldered to the top of it. You can purchase those at AutoZone, eBay, Amazon, wherever you need. And this is some of the stuff that you can purchase there, and they are called fuse taps. You can get the wires on the end of the fuses. They're soldered to the spades. The old glass fuse types, you can tap into those. You have in the top right corner, the old glass fuse types, you can change to the new flat blades if you wanted to. So it offers that with a tap on it that you can tap out of it. So the grounds that were said was an improper grounding is the ground on your battery is the ultimate ground. It's the one that starts everything. I did talk to an upfitter in Safford about all these pictures, and he was saying none of them were much of a concern to him except the big wire that was there if it caused any heat or anything. But other than that, everything else on here was fine. I think the next picture is another ground. Yeah, another wire going to the ground. So all the GPSs that were removed are still in their possession. So actually, we'd like to get those returned if we could. We're paying for those monthly, and it's just the fact that we'd like to have them back. I know the speed bumps on that one, but still. The next picture shows from the GPS on the right is where some of them were removed, because that's when the signal ended, was down on the south side of the county, and then at the sheriff's office here on the north side of the county, some more were removed. This is an email I sent after our meeting that we had with the sheriff, asking for the gas buoy numbers to all these. We would like to get these into the fleet shop to get them checked out, to make sure that all those are, safe and connected and everything, and not causing the issues that we're having. There's a question on the 2020 Chevrolet pickup, the white pickup that we bought from Stone Garden. It did show up at the fleet shop the other day, so we brought it in. We serviced it. We checked it all over. We found 2 power steering hoses that were rubbing together that we had to replace. We found 2 oil cooler hoses that were rubbing together that we replaced. We replaced 4 tires. We replaced the starter. Just things that we went through. We went through it totally because we haven't seen it in quite a while. We haven't seen it in about a year. So we went through it completely, and we actually got it to the body shop. There was an accident on that about a year ago that we never got the vehicle for. So we're getting it repaired right now. A lot of this was accusations on our shop for doing shoddy work. A little bit about our guys in the shop. Our Tech 3 guy has been with the county for almost 15 years. Was a mechanic before that, owned his own shop, worked for the mine as a mechanic, stuff like that. We had a mechanic from Kempton's that we brought over, was here about 10 years. He finally left us and went on to be a teacher. The other mechanic we have in there has been here for going on 34 years. So we do that pretty good. Our parts guy has been with Kempton's for quite a few years, came over to us from them, been here 10+ years. He's very good at finding parts. His rapport with all the shops and places around here, even in Tucson and Phoenix, is very, very good. If you need a part found, he can find you the part. And our other mechanic is young, starting out. He's been here for 2 years. Has no problem with researching. He does that very, very well. So have a lot of confidence in our shop guys. So if there is issues with our vehicles, and we're not perfect, we can make mistakes. So if there is, we'd like them to come back into us and we, talk about it, see what your issue is. We can fix it or explain why we did it that way, something of that nature. So, and that's my report on that.
Sure.
Pardon?
I had a couple questions.
Yes.
Tony, thank you. Thank you very much. I just have a few questions, and I'm happy to hear you say that you're not perfect, because I don't think any of us are, right? And so I'm sure that there are going to be issues, right? I mean, that's why we have a shop. That's why we're there, because things go wrong and we fix them. I'm just kind of curious, why so many wiring job? Why are we having to do so much wiring in those vehicles after we receive them? I mean, we buy them, we get them upfitted and all that. And then it seems like we're still having to do some electrical additions after the fact. Why is that?
We're not doing any electrical additions after
Okay.
that. The only thing we put in are GPS units.
Right.
So any wiring that's done outside of the factory is done by the upfitters. We've gone through 3 or 4 different upfitters that do it 3 or 4 different ways. What we do is the repairs on it when it comes back in from an issue, code 3 going out or something, then we go through it. And if we have to rewire it, then we'll rewire that section, but not the whole thing.
So, and I'm glad, because obviously these GPS units that we've installed in these vehicles, right? I mean, per policy, that, so our mechanics aren't the ones removing them? I mean,
No.
and making sure that that wiring is put back
No,
together appropriately?
no, they do not remove them
So,
unless they're told to.
so employees have just removed them? I mean, from the vehicles?
No, not employees, just the sheriff.
Oh, okay. I mean, but Greeley County employees, right?
Correct,
But not mechanics.
correct,
So we can't ensure what the wiring looked like after they pulled out the GPS units.
correct.
Are there, for all of these issues that have happened, were work orders turned in? Were work orders turned in on those so that you guys can?
These
fix those?
issues on these slides, no. That's
No.
why I was asking for the gas boy numbers so we can get them in to check them and make sure that everything's working on them.
And
we've
that request
had-
was from August? I mean, is that when you sent that request to?
Yeah,
for the
that
gas
was-
boy numbers?
Yeah, after our meeting we had in
Yeah.
August.
And have you received them?
No, not a word. I went back through the work orders from 2022 calendar year. There were 230 work orders put in for sheriff's office vehicles. 11 of those were code 3 issues. This year for 2023, from January to current, there were, trying to remember how many issues, 153 work orders done for the sheriff's office vehicles. 4 of them were for code 3. They were,
Can you explain code 3?
code 3 is the sirens and lights
Oh,
on the
okay.
patrol vehicles.
Okay.
Those issues were solved, gone out. A couple of them have come back in for the same issues. We look at them again. If it's an issue that we can't fix and do it on the first 1 or 2 times, we'll send it out to an upfitter to have them look at it and fix it. Normally, it's a fuse. It's a top hat, which is a power guard that's on those that saves the batteries. It'll shut everything down after so long if you're letting it idle.
Mhm.
Except when your code 3s are on. Or it's a ground. And as many wires as they got going through there and grounding, it's kind of hard to find some of those sometimes.
If you don't mind, I'm asking another question. So is there some associated, and I say it because in the mine, you talk about production pressure, right? You talk about maybe taking shortcuts so that you can hurry up and get the vehicles out into the field. Is there that type of feeling at the shop where they come in and they're like, just do whatever you gotta do, I gotta be done in an hour? I mean, that kind of thing?
There's a little bit of that, but we also know that we did one. There was one on a K9 that the mechanic ran a wire through the door, put fuses on both sides just to get the guy out that night.
Mhm.
If I'd have known about it, I wouldn't have said anything. I wouldn't have let it go out. Because we need to take the time to do it right. We're not
I
trying to
agree.
put
That's
out
my point.
anything unsafe. And we're not trying to put anything out immediately just because they need it that way.
Right.
They have swings that I understand it's difficult to swing out of them all the time and back in when they're repaired, but that's the system that we have. The vehicles are there, they're extras, that's what they're for. They can swing out, we can fix it right or send it out and get it done. And then they can swing back in.
And I would assume maybe one of our swings is a canine upfitted, right? So I mean,
Yes.
it
Yes,
it is, or,
it is.
Oh, it is, okay,
Yeah, we have one
okay.
canine. Well, I actually have two canine swings right now. One's a
Okay.
Tahoe and one's an Impala. But there's two other canines that are on duty.
well, and as I said, I know that we're not all perfect, right? And we want to make sure that if a vehicle comes into our facility and, Public Works and into the fleet department, that it is repaired appropriately and then maybe checked off at the end by somebody that, you've got some great experience out there, that somebody checks off at that repair and then let it go. That way you have a point of contact that said, I looked at the repair after it's done and it's good. And if, but I think that's all of us, that I think we get that production pressure, we get that stress, right, from people that maybe don't want to take the swing vehicles. I've heard, stories from people that our swing vehicles aren't great, and that's why they're swing vehicles, right?
Right.
And so, but we have to just do what's right to make sure that the equipment going out in the field is, is safe for people to operate.
Correct.
And I think that was all that I had. I know that we have some other vehicles out there. We have some other vehicles out there that aren't in operation. Is that correct? Is there some pickups that we had
Oh, yeah.
purchased through the sheriff's department?
Yeah,
Can
we
you
have.
give a status of where we're at on those?
We have 5 of the F-150 responders that are here, fully upfitted. They did come in with no radars and no winches. And I didn't know you can order a truck without fobs these days, but they came in with no fobs. So we're getting those. Yeah, a key.
Okay.
It's like the old days. But we are getting those taken care of through Enterprise, and they should be on the road shortly.
Okay. And how long have we had them?
2 weeks,
Okay.
Yeah.
So they haven't been sitting out there forever.
not forever, no.
Okay.
And Enterprise is making them good then, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're working with them to do it just because we want to get it rolled into the lease payments.
Ron had a lot of questions. I had one thing on the 2020 pickup that came in that needed all the repairs. Was there ever an accident report?
Yes,
There was an accident report on that, okay. And it went.
Chairman, we've also received reimbursement from ASIP, who worked with the other insurance. It wasn't exact because there was never, wasn't brought in timely, but they did an estimate. We received some money through the other driver's insurance to help defray that cost.
Okay. Well, I appreciate what the fleet does. All the vehicles I've ever been involved with have always, I haven't had, when I do have problems, I take them there and they seem like they give me a swing vehicle, and I know I appreciate you going through and explaining how many years of experience and service that your employees have. They do live, most of them live among us, and they do value their work, and they take pride in their work, and I appreciate that. And anyway, the GPS units, you say we haven't taken out any of those.
no, sir.
And we can't address it, but sometime we need to address it in the near future. Of those GPS units need to be addressed, and my opinion, and put back in the vehicle. So with that, David, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I think it's all been covered. I just want to tell Tony, thank you for following up on this subject of, when it was first presented, I scratched my head for several days and said, oh my God. But thank you, Tony, for putting this explanations all together, and thank the fleet personnel for everything that they do, because I've never had a problem myself with a vehicle coming out of there, and if I do, I take it in and it gets taken care of. So thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo that, I mean, it seems like they're doing a great job. So kudos to the police department because they are keeping everything running. There's a lot out there, but
Right.
you know,
And I'd like to say they shouldn't, and they try not to make any exceptions on who it is, because every vehicle is important. So we try to treat everybody the same.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Yes,
take this discussion in a slightly different direction for a few minutes?
sure.
If you catch the lights. I want to couch this conversation a little bit different discussion and maybe how we can perhaps lower some of the temperature and maybe not have these kind of acute disagreements. The background, as we've already heard, is that the wiring, it really stems from an ongoing discussion we've had for almost 2 years on GPS units in the sheriff's office and the sheriff's office vehicles, those assigned to the sheriff's office. I want you to understand that this particular flare up probably began because of me. I instructed Tony and his department to begin installing GPS units. As you'll recall, the old supplier for GPS data, we ended that contract and then we didn't install. Sheriff didn't want them installed. We tried to work that through. We didn't get it worked through. So I told Tony, let's start installing these things. And I asked him to conceal them. I said, I don't want them to be easily found. Did not let the sheriff know. And so a few months ago, the sheriff asked for GPS data on all of the county vehicles, I believe it was, certainly a segment of them. When he got that report, he would have seen the gas boy numbers indicating that some of the vehicles had, by that point, had GPS units installed. Once he discovered that they'd been installed, he then began to remove them. In the process of the removal, as Tony had already mentioned, that's when he just discovered what he thought were unsafe wiring practices, and he brought them to the board's attention. With the exceptions that Tony's noted, our department really is doing their best to put safe vehicles out, following the protocols that they believe are appropriate for those installations. They say in most cases, these aren't our installations, we're only installing a single item. So what is the conflict? Whether or not the unorthodox installation, somewhat surreptitiously and somewhat hidden, did that cause any wiring issues? Or was the unorthodox removal that caused the wiring issue? Or is there actually a wiring issue at all? Or do we simply have some pictures that without context, or certainly for me, no mechanical background, they don't look good, but we don't know. We know, for example, there's one wire that appears it could be hot and uninsulated. If that's true, that's not good. So other of these splices were taped or otherwise sheathed, and the pictures show that they weren't. So the real question is, do we have an issue? And if so, what was the cause? This is beginning to feel like an intractable conflict. I came across a study, a 2014 study done by Boston College. They studied nearly 3,000 people. They studied 2 conflicts that have been going on for decades that have not been able to be resolved. Not surprising, one was the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and the other was Republicans and Democrats here in America. They studied about 650 Republicans and Democrats here, and about 2,200 Israeli Palestinians over there. And they tried to understand, why can't these things be resolved? Well, they found that in both of these protracted conflicts, each side believed that their position was motivated by the right things. I'm trying to solve a problem. I love this country. I love these people. I'm doing the right thing. But they all perceived their opponents as having bad motivation. They hate me. They don't want me to succeed. They're trying to blow this whole thing up. You might hear something like this: I'm doing what I'm doing because I care. I want to make things better. I care about my country. I'm helping people. I have the right answer to the problem, but you're doing what you're doing because you want to see me fail. You don't care about me or those others affected, and your solutions are never going to work. And so I asked myself, am I guilty of that? And the answer is yes. Yeah, I've been guilty of that.
We all are.
And in this particular conflict in particular, I have certainly ascribed to the sheriff bad motives. And as I began to examine my own behavior, I realized that my ascribing to him bad motives has changed the way I've done things. There are differences of opinion almost every day on how to solve some problem. Overwhelmingly, I go first to the person that we have a disagreement with and try and figure out where's the common ground. And in this particular case, I didn't. I told the garage, go stick those in there and hide them. And that probably set the wrong stage to begin with. It is not uncommon to have strong and sincerely held beliefs on any one of a 1,000 or 1,000,000 different conflicts. But just because somebody else disagrees doesn't mean they're acting out of bad faith or bad motives. For example, I believe the sheriff sincerely believes that under his leadership, his office can do a better job than the board on HR, finance, IT, and doing his fleet services. I think he really sincerely holds that belief. I don't think he's making up or posturing. Conversely, the board sincerely believes that the best way to offer these services is through the departments that the board already runs, and they offer these services to everybody. Those are both sincerely held beliefs. They're very different. And that's going to create some friction and some heat. But I think it would be wrong to suggest that one side is insincere and the other is sincere. Let's talk about the lawsuit. At its most basic level, the lawsuit is trying to solve the question of who has the responsibility and frankly, the accountability for finance, for funding, for paying bills, for running. Are we back? Okay, let's me back up to where we were. I'll share screen again. Let's see. This may take us to the beginning. We'll see. Want to hear it all again?
Sure. I don't know.
So essentially what we're trying to resolve is who's got the authority and responsibility to manage these services, and particularly as they touch on the sheriff's office. I believe the sheriff really believes that the statute places those responsibilities on him. But conversely, the board likewise steadfast believes that the budgeting and bill paying processes outlined in statute places the responsibility and accountability on the board for these decisions. Both can be sincerely held beliefs, but they're going to lead to some friction. Here's the thing that is troubling, and that is that even if this case works its way all the way through, it's not going to answer every conflict, every disagreement that comes up. There's no way a judge is going to say, Sheriff, you have to let them put GPS in your car. That's not going to be that granular. And it's not going to say, board, stay out of the cars and get your GPS out. That's not the way court orders are crafted. And so, moreover, the issues at the center of the lawsuit are of critical statewide importance. They go to the heart of how county government works in Arizona. And because of that crucial nature of the question, it's unlikely it's going to be resolved once the trial judge makes a decision. there's almost certainly going to an appeal, which means we've got a long time, months, maybe more than a year before this matter is finally resolved. So what do we do in the meantime? If we can't find some way to work through differences, particularly with strong personality, with strongly held opinions, then even once the lawsuit's over, we're still going to be bickering. And there's going to be issues. It's not just the board and the sheriff. There's going to be differences of opinion between the roads and the public works, between the recorder and the elections department. The people who do things have opinions, and that's going to sometimes bump into each other. Going back to the study, they did something interesting in these conflicts they studied. They actually incentivized people in the study to, with money, they said, we will pay you if you can go through this exercise to learn what your opponent's motivations are. And money actually helped them finally put themselves in the other person's shoes and say, oh, I get it. Maybe their motivations are also good. So what's our incentive to do things differently? Let me cover a few recent headlines, and maybe this will put it in context for us. Those who don't know, that's Senator Jake Hoffman and, of course, Governor Katie Hobbs. Senator Hoffman is the head of the committee who's supposed to vet the governor's state agency appointments. Less than half have been given hearings. Of those that have been given hearings, about half have been approved and half have been rejected. Some have been withdrawn because they were going to be rejected. So Governor Hobbs finally got fed up and just withdrew all of her nominees. Says, I'm not going to play this game anymore. And so she appointed them as deputy directors as a kind of an end run. Well, one of their responsibilities as directors is to sit on an investment board with the state treasurer. So she says, I'm sending over my deputy directors, and Treasurer Yee said, I'm not accepting them. They're not directors. And so here now they're both in the headlines accusing each other of breaking the law. We know these faces. They've been making the news the last couple of days. Pro-Trump conservatives, this is a headline that said that some of the Trump caucus is upset with Getz because he's pushed this thing against Speaker McCarthy. And then there was an interesting article in the British BBC that talked about the Democrats basically saying, we will work and save McCarthy, but it's going to come. One guy was quoted as saying, I'm not a cheap date. We're going to have some political concessions to make this work. Trump decries the infighting between Getz and McCarthy. And then McCarthy on Tuesday was ousted, the first speaker in the history of the country to be ousted from the speakership role. What do most people think about this? This was in September, but an ongoing, it's been going on for 30 or 40 years. They measure the approval rating of national institutions. Congress was down to 19%. And that was before this whole row over the Speaker of the House. 78% don't approve of what Congress is doing. 3% apparently didn't have an opinion, but that's a pretty stark 80 to 20 roughly think they're not doing their job well. I couldn't find any statistics or I couldn't find any polls on Arizona's approval rating of what our feuding leaders, what they think of them. But I think it's telling that for the first time in our state's history in July of this year, independents outnumbered both Republicans and Democrats. It's the largest voting bloc in the state. I think there's growing frustration. In other words, as we collectively and individually engage in these back and forth, normal people are saying, come on, can't we solve these problems? And don't get me wrong, they are difficult problems. 2024 frightens all of us. It's going to be a tough year. The lead up that we're in right now tells us it's going to be a tough year. And it's not just for elections directors and recorders. There's enough anger and angst and frustration, inter-party, intra-party. And my worry is we saw inklings of this 4 years ago, but by and large, this cancer has not touched Greenlee County, but it threatens to this year. It threatens that the anger is going to be there. What we say really matters. How we say it really matters. And how we treat each other actually really matters. This is a call out to me. I haven't done what's expected of me by myself. I've allowed frustrations to cloud the way I say things, the way I think about things, and the way I go about problem solving. It's not easy because I think both sides do have sincere, strongly held beliefs about how a problem should be addressed. We're seeing flashpoints, almost like Cold War flare-ups on a number of fronts in our county. But the basics are how are we going about solving them? We're not doing a particularly good job. I invite anybody to join me. The hard work is finding out how we solve these things. There was an example, we were asked one time by Secretary Vilsack in a meeting we were at in Washington, D.C. about how it was that Fry got off the ground. It was the only experiment at the time that they were aware of in the entire country where environmentalists, land users, and local government were all on the same page, pulling in the same direction. It says, how did you get there? And the answer was, we started with what we agreed on. We didn't start with, do you cut old growth forest or not? The agreement was that the forests were unhealthy and that they needed to be cleared or the entire thing would burn down. And so starting with where there was agreement and working out from there, built a coalition that at the time, and maybe since, had never been done before. I would suggest we take a similar approach here, is we sit down and say, is there anything we can agree on? And then start there. If we start out at the heck no, you can't, and heck no, I will, we will be like all the pictures I showed. And I don't think history will look kindly on this generation of problem solvers. This is a different twist on the wiring thing, no pun intended. But the truth is, our garage is not trying to put out unsafe cars. In fact, they're doing all they can to make sure that they are safe. But likewise, the sheriff sincerely wants and believes he needs, and he does need, reliable, well-maintained cars to do his job. He can't do it if we put out faulty cars. Mistakes, guarantee they're going to have some. But I simply want the board to know that I'm committed to try and do this differently. I'm committed to try and do the hard work of finding, even if it's just one data point that we can agree on, to start from there and not start with name calling and fault finding and accusing. Maybe it's not directly related, but it's important that for me, maybe we can lower the temperature.
Yeah. I think that was very well said. I think we've talked about it a long time that we don't, we don't see ourselves as those other people, right? We don't see those people in Maricopa County, right? They have all the infighting and stuff, and we're better than that. And we always have been, and we want to continue to be. So I think those are great lessons for all of us to follow. And I look forward to that new way of thinking and that new path. And hopefully it works and does lower the temperature, because I think that's important. Thank you.
Important thing is we get things solved and it's better for everyone.
Absolutely.
With that, if there's nothing else on that, and thank you both for those presentations. I think this board has always said we will be professional and try to take the high road. And I hope that we can live up to our words, because that is our sincere and true feelings. And I know I'm speaking for the board. And are we perfect? No, but we're the ones that make the decisions, and we're also the ones that have to carry the heavy burden if we are wrong. And anyway, I believe, Derek, your presentation, thank you for it. I think it refocuses on what the board has always admonished you to do as administrator, and also us. And so thank you for those well thought out thoughts that we need to consider and make sure that we are doing what we always said we do. We're going to take the high road, be very professional. And I know some of us have lost sleep because we have been trying to do what's right, and we've been trying sometimes to see the other side of it, and we need to. How do you judge a man unless you've walked in his shoes? And I think sometimes we forget that. We get so wrapped up in our point of view. We're right, you're wrong. And I think your words were well received. With that, we'll now go to
Mr. Chairman, I just want to
Yes.
make a comment.
You betcha. Please, sorry, David.
No, that's okay. I just wanna say very well said by all. And I totally agree. We need to move on. Amen.
Okay. With that, thank you, David. With that, we'll go to agenda item 8.
With respect to county and state budget and legislative issues, of course, next week we'll be at the CSA Summit and pursuing developing and outlining the CSA legislative agenda. It is unlikely that Greeley County will have a positive. In other words, we're going to go out and try and accomplish something. We'll be playing defense. Everyone's concerns are there will not be as much money. And so new spending initiatives are likely to be dead on arrival. But the worry is that as the needle tips to the other side, that they'll start looking for money in our couch cushions. And so we'll be paying defense there. On state budget, I should have the first quarter revenues distributions data I can share with the board at our next meeting. We'll get a better idea of where we're at in our first quarter. We'll be doing some budget analysis, see how our spending maps to our revenue. So we can kind of get a first temperature take of how our budget is doing in the current fiscal year. And that's all I have on those two fronts.
Yeah. But with that, I know in the reports given by CSA on the budget, revenue is dropped dramatically in the first quarter, and they're predicting that it will continue to drop. So the one-time money's dried up, and I think Derek, you hit the nail on the head. Is there's going to be a lot less money. In fact, there's not going to be the money that they projected that was there last year, and so I think they will be a tendency as generally to balance the budget, the state budget, on the backs of the counties. So I concur with you 100%. Bianca, would you please go over the calendar?
Yes, thank you. Next week, we do have the CSA Summit from the 11th through the 13th. Our next board meeting, or with us on the 18th. Our next board meeting was pushed back a week after. That was going to be on the 24th. That's all I have for October. Going into November, our first board meeting is on November 7th, and that is election day. We don't have any elections. Saturday, the 4th, is Town of Clifton, the 150th anniversary celebration. County managers on the 10th, and then the 7th annual suicide walk for Cody, November 11th, and that starts at 9. Small counties, Eco and WIFA on the 15th. the 16th CSA Board of Directors meeting, and then ECO on the 17th. That starts at 10. Our second board meeting in November is on the 21st. And then offices are closed the 23rd and 24th for Thanksgiving. That's all I have for November. Going into December. County managers on the 8th. Our first meeting is on the 12th. And we usually don't have a second meeting unless we need it. So that's that one just to be determined if we need it. ACO conference is the 12th through the 15th. Small counties, the 13th, ECO and WIFA all on the 13th, and then CSA on the 14th. On the 25th, our offices are closed, and that's all I have for December.
What date is the Festival of Lights?
It's that same weekend as the 150th.
No, November 4th.
Yes, sir. Festival of Lights.
Festival of Lights?
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, control the cover.
Oh, right.
Too many parties.
It's in November, not December.
No.
Festival of Lights is the first weekend in December. The color of the cover is the first weekend in November.
So generally then the parade and stuff, Festival of Lights will be the 2nd. And then generally Duncan's is the following weekend will probably be the 9th there.
That's correct, sir.
So the Festival of Lights is on this December the 2nd. I just wanted to get it on the calendar.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, I'm sorry. We went back to the old way, the first of November was Buzzer Cup, the first of December is the Festival of Lights,
Okay.
it's been tradition.
Yeah.
Kind of really late this morning.
Of course, we'll find out whether those small counties, ECO and CSA, will they be in conjunction with the ACO conference? I know some years they have and some years they've changed, so we'll find that out.
All those organizations and find out for sure.
Okay, David, do you have anything to add to the calendar?
No, I don't. I just want to make a comment about the memorial, the Modest Bluff Memorial festivities that are going to occur also on November 4th. The beginning of that, for that helicopter that they're going to install up on top of the mountain there. There's going to be some things going on with that.
Thank you, David. Ron?
Nope, nothing else.
Okay, I don't have anything. So we'll now go to agenda item 9, consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as listed.
I second that motion.
We have motion second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We now go to supervisory reports. Ron?
I don't have anything for this meeting. Thank you.
David?
I don't either, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, thank you. I did go to the Small Counties Forum. It was hosted by Apache County. We had quite a discussion about housing throughout the state. We also had quite a discussion on what's happening with broadband. You know, the money, as you know, the state was given $993 million, almost $1 billion, and yet the counties haven't. That money hadn't been circulating for broadband. It was also brought, of course, it's a rural caucus that we need to really make sure that the rural areas get what they need to provide services in the rural areas. And we also pointed out that broadband, providing broadband in the rural areas, it'll cost more. We don't have the population, and we also have a lot of mountains and hills that we must go through. So we also discussed quite a bit on water. It was a meeting that I think that the small counties realize that we need to make sure we get our act together and make sure that we go and speak with one voice off the same sheet of music. And so I thought it went very well. At the CSA Board of Directors meeting, we had Chris Mays, who is the Arizona Attorney General. She talked to us. Of course, she talked about water and some of the things that she would like to get accomplished with her tenure. We had, of course, as the Sherry and knows very, very well, with the passage of what they want to do with elections, there's just not enough time. And that was discussed, you know, the 17 and I believe the 19 days. Mr. Jared Scott was there. Was representing the Secretary of State on the elections, and he talked about some of the conflicts that we've all, Derek had made us aware of the previous board meeting. Sherry, most of the counties, if not all, know how hard your departments have worked, how the election, Bianca, have worked. We don't feel like there's a problem. And we want to send that message back. I think we have sent that message back, and we will continue to send that message. But we want you to know, and your employees know, that we praise the hard work that you do. And it's not an easy task. And anyway, that was the sentiment there at CSA. Also, as you know, next week we'll debate the legislative, we'll set our legislative agenda. There are several things in there. One, we're concerned with you know, coming up with $35 million for the forest from the state. We feel like there's just not going to be funds there, and that'll be quite a bad. Coconino County is they've been the recipients, them along with Gila County, for 2 years of almost $70 million. The first year it was because of it happened during COVID and the slow response. The next year, the legislature passed a skinny budget. So as you know, the budget goes on as presented the year before. So they got an additional $35 million. They want to keep that $35 million coming from the state. One, it's a lot easier to get. You don't have to jump through all the hoops. Two, it comes a lot quicker than federal money does. And so that will be, we talked about some of those things. Also, with the resignation of Danny Smith, the small counties will need to select a first vice president position, which I know Alton Shepherd says he's interested. Alton is a good man in my opinion. And it also, when Danny Smith, he stepped aside, so Danny, we could push Danny along with the one voice. And so he's interested in and then the medium caucus will nominate the third vice president position. So there'll be 2 positions that will be voted on in the November meeting. So anyway, the Western Interstate Region, great meeting. they left the federal agencies out. This time they didn't bring the spokesman, and they focused on a lot of things local. Wyoming is second to Texas in energy. We went out and viewed some of the transmission lines, unbelievable, and some of the big turbine generating wind power, but they are second in the nation in energy. What they do, some of the positive ways, they're checkerboard. Both, a lot of their state is checkerboard, public land, then a section of private land, public land, and so a lot of these wind, solar and wind turbines are being put on public lands. They're not the privates. Before, a lot of it was going on private land. With that, they get their roads taken care of. Unbelievable. The ranch roads that you drive on out there, unbelievable. Also, they talked about the game last year. In some areas, 90% kill on their antelope. 90%. And the does that survived, they didn't raise young, very few young. Their deer population in areas was hit extremely hard, not to the extent of the antelope, but that is a concern. They collect a lot of revenue from hunting and tourism in their state, but their number one driver is energy. Other than that, I thought we learned a lot. Nebraska, I remember a few years ago, Minnesota wanted to join WIR, and so they were made an associate member for 3 years, and then the decision will be made whether the goals thrive. Nebraska this time came and petitioned to become a member. There was quite a discussion on what direction WIR is going. And last but not least, the Center for Public Lands, the 1% from the local assistance and tribal contingency fund. Arizona has done extremely well. We're 2 counties out. Utah is 100% in, but some of the other states still wobbly. We've collected about $5 million out of a possible $15 million. So there was a lot of discussion of some strong points of view on both sides. That's my report, and I appreciate the opportunity and the support I get from the other supervisors in allowing me to do some of these things. With that, before we'll cause a short break, and then we'll go into agenda item 11, work session, Greene County Fairground Park Development. Thank you.
Should be able to click on mine, bring up mine.
Is Dave trying to talk or does anybody know?
Let's see if we can have this. I'll call
I'm on.
Okay, you're on. Okay, Dave, I just want to make sure that you can be part of this meeting. So with that, we'll go ahead and start, and I'll turn the time over to Derek and we'll begin this work session.
All right, I'm gonna suggest we've got David hovering over the map. If I can suggest turn it down, we can kind of do this in a almost like a game board fashion. Let me start by bringing Supervisor Gomez and Campbell up to speed.
Uh-oh. Lost you. Hey, Ron, I lost audio. I lost audio.
Let's have audio.
All right, I can see it. I can see it. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in.
All right.
Welcome.
Thank you.
No, we're not worried about that, we're worried about here. All right. Mr. Government again.
Yeah, please.
All right, to bring Supervisor Campbell and Gomez up to speed, we've already visited Supervisor Lunt about this. And this, we're talking some concepts. One of the projects on our ARPA list was to reconfigure the ball fields at the Duncan Fairgrounds. But as we got to look at that, we looked at some other potential revenue sources. For example, the Duncan schools has some money that they have to spend in the current fiscal year. One of their objectives was to develop a new softball field with some of their money. So I visited with the Duncan schools, we visited with some other partners. We know there's some potential grant money available out there. And so we began to rethink and just try to reimagine what the fairgrounds footprint could look like. And so we had Reed do some scale drawings of, well, not drawings, but outlines of what a fourplex of softball fields might look like. We began to play around a little bit. Now, what I've got here is there are two different diagrams. One is 100 feet from foul line to foul line, and the other one is 80 feet from foul line to foul line. In other words, it takes a little bit smaller footprint. We've also got a playground, which is the same size as the one we currently have. We have a fictional splash pad. We've got a potential second arena, and I'll explain why we've thought about some of that. So where we started talking, and we thought about what if we built a fourplex of softball fields just south of the county annex, and use that as the beginning of a redesign of our fairgrounds park complex, if you will. You'll notice that cuts off part of our parking up here at the north end. But we talked that one of the possibilities is we could maybe extend this parking, square it off, create some additional parking over here. Our playground, which is currently over by the highway, there's space in between the annex and the yard to place both perhaps a splash pad and move our playground. And then we talked about, well, if we do this, you'll see that the entire north part of the racetrack has been built over. And so with that having been built over, the racetrack, obviously this north end is not used very much, but the racetrack as itself has long been used as sort of a warm-up space for rodeos, for whatever gymkhana, whatever they're doing. And so if you begin to take apart some of the racetrack, you got to say, well, where are we going to move that activity? The racetrack, as you can see, and no one knows why it was done this kitty corner way. I'm sure somebody does, but nobody who's still around in county government. But it sets up some artificial use barriers. For example, people come through over here and they park inside the arena or they park outside the arena. But the only reason this isn't well,
Racetrack.
yeah, that's the racetrack, excuse me, not the arena. This is the infield of the racetrack. The only reason they do that is because there's a racetrack there. And so it kind of creates some artificial barriers to more effective use. But we've looked at this and said, well, one suggestion was to place the ball fields over here by the highway and put a warm-up arena or a secondary arena just north of the existing arena. One of the advantages to that is you can use the chute structure that we have for both arenas. Another potential location is just south of the existing arena on the south curve of the track. And understand these are not to scale. So the arenas, we just try to get a conceptual idea. But if we did something along this line, then perhaps the old ball field area could turn into a soccer field, perhaps a skate park, perhaps pickleball complex. I don't know. But we've started to look at some things. And before we got much further, we wanted to make sure that the board, one, was aware of what we're trying to work on. Two, see if this is a concept we want to put some time, effort, and money towards. And I say money because we have some money for capital projects that we could either redirect. We can also go out looking for partners. on some of these things. Some we've talked to formally, some we've had some very informal preliminary discussions with. But I mean, I'm disinclined to go out and form partnerships if the board says, you know, this isn't really something we want to pursue. And so with that, we wanted to pitch the concept, get your ideas, your thoughts. We wanted to create this sort of game piece approach so that you can move things around, see what other things might look like. Let's talk about the other half of that. And what I asked Reed to do was to give us a outside, like a high ballpark number. If there was a question whether it might cost a little or more, I said, go with the more. So we have an outside idea. And we're at about $2 million for this type of a ball field complex with a playground, you know, relocation and a splash pad. I've talked to the town of Duncan about partnering on splash pad water. So we're not using well water to do that, recycling it. Any event, some of that $2 million could be done in-house. For example, if we end up, you know, going here, leveling this, we've got the equipment, personnel, and expertise to level a ball field. We've put up ball fencing before. I don't know that we've laid sod before, but if that became part of it, we might lay sod or plant seed or whatever we do. We've had discussion out at the ball field, the current ball fields with the school. We've had internal discussions with several players in the county to try and develop some ideas. The reason they're all on transparency so you can move around is because nothing's been locked down. But we wanted to pitch the concept of developing this fairgrounds campus in a way that is more effective use of the land we have, and in a way that would facilitate other development. We've got a couple areas. This area here in the northwest right now, nothing happens there. We're not going back to motorsports. We can't get the insurance for it. So the mud bogs, the tractor pools are likely never happening again. Racing's out. Racing is out. Turf Paradise is going to try to start. They were going to close. And now they're going to try to start. This southeast corner, it can be used for dry camping, but because of the placement of these buildings, most people don't even realize it's there. So we've got a lot of space. There's some unused space on the east side of the fairgrounds part. The secondary field we built several years ago for a variety of reasons is seldom used. So
Look at it.
I know, I was trying to be euphemistic and kind. Yeah, it looks like playing in a gravel yard. But please, any questions? We want to get this in front of you and start thinking this out loud, so to speak.
What buildings need to stay and which ones can go? These obviously all need to stay.
There's not a single building that for this type of a setup, nothing would have to go. Eventually, these may go depending on what we do at this corner.
Yeah, because there's no need for those.
We don't have to have those.
Okay.
Those are stables. Those are stables left over from racing days.
What is this?
That's a well set.
That's our well number 2.
Okay.
And that's where our big storage tanks are. This well number 1 is the one that's recently collapsed, and we are working on a quote to get that re-drilled. That's our big producer right here.
You mind if I move? Something?
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Anyway. I was thinking, I mean, to, line this up, obviously there's just a warm-up arena or whatever.
Right,
So
correct.
you don't have that. I don't think you'd be running roping or whatever. I mean, you could run barrels in there or gymkhanas and stuff like that if you wanted.
Or
but-
warm up horses.
Yeah, it's just warming up horses. And I was thinking. Well, I like the. Get there, but I was thinking trying to put the, I don't know. Playground splash pad over in that area so that it's more continuous, with the fair and activities happening there at the arena, but I don't know.
I'll tell you, some of our thought process of locating it near the playgrounds, near the ball fields, is that when families are there for Little League or
Yeah.
T-ball,
I
those
like that.
playgrounds are right next door.
Yep.
But we're not locked in. And one thing Tony pointed out is this space right here, and even clear back over here, has been used as sort of a makeshift laydown yard. But most of the stuff that's laid down there doesn't need to be there. In fact, some of it can just be gotten rid of altogether. So
One thing too, that we thought, you're getting. You're over here, you're getting the parking, you're getting them off Highway 75, and coming in here and park. Also, you're using the existing and you can have parking over here and. Like you said, it was discussed, we had the playgrounds and the splash pads and stuff. If you close them out here, parents are gonna let their kids, if it's clear over here, if there's ball games, they're not gonna have it. Also, the school. They need this and you, a lot of times right now, and you ask why the fourplex. Because a lot of times you've got now girls softball coming, you've got Little League, and you've got girls, the high school. You know, the high school's getting better, at least in our area. We could also have tournaments.
One of the other things too, just so you guys know, when we were doing some of the fair recap, one of the things we were talking about is, possibly setting this up in a way where we can create more of a permanent ticket session, so ticket booths coming in. So if there's a big tournament that they're collecting entrance fees on, we could use one set that works for the fairground and for the softball field, but we actually have a permanent entrance, right? Into the facility that has a nice ticket booth set up that you could regulate, both sides with, right? However that looks, if it's over here. But doing something that allows us, right now for fair, we put up a temporary stuff, we put up a ticket booths, we do that kind of stuff. But if we do something with this complex where it works, where we can have one central parking and one central entrance, right? That works off to fair stuff, works off to the field stuff. That way there's some control of entry to it.
Get rid of this racetrack. Right now, everybody's warming those horses up. There's kids running here on it, and David will tell you. This second arena, that gives you a place to say, all right, you warm up in here. Kids, nobody on foot in there, and so it's a safety factor. Now, there is and Derek brought this, putting this second arena down here. It just you warm up and it utilizes this. Now. They said if you had that, you could possibly have a high school rodeo. But.
And yeah, I was thinking maybe like. Just trying to keep it continuous rather than sticking the playground and splash pad kind of over in this area where there's a lot of industrial stuff going on over here. Just trying to keep it. I like the field over there and parking. I just kind of wanted to get that kind of in the middle of the complex, yeah. So that it's not, because I think with the playground and splash pad, it could be used for when we're having the fair, when people are doing, and for them to walk all the way over to here. I just think keeping
That's
it all
something I
kind
hadn't
of
thought
together.
about.
That's true.
And one of the things you'll find out, I don't know if you guys were there on Saturday night, but Saturday night, I can tell you that's not adequate parking. Right, so meaning when I look at this probably needs to be shifted this way, and parking needs to be continuous across this whole face. Because this street's totally covered, this is totally packed, there's not a parking spot anywhere.
But we can't build over that.
We could,
No. But there are other parking solutions potentially
for
too,
sure.
whether we're here or whether we're here.
Yeah.
There's other space here that could be used for parking. One of the things that David pointed out that I had not given much credit to, and that is that when you have a good sized rodeo event, yeah, you've got trucks and trailers. And unfortunately, what's happening right now is they kind of park here, there, wherever. They tend to line up inside the track, they line up outside the track. But there hasn't really been given any thought to, here's where we're going to put our horsemen and their 28 9-foot trucks and their 42-foot trailers. And so,
Tell them where they go.
yeah, in other words, here's where you go.
Yeah.
And regardless of where this ends up, we're going to need to use some of the other space for more effective parking. And one of the things David also pointed out is this green area is a drainage for our complex down here. We believe that could be managed, but right now that water ponds here, settles, and it gets really big, it comes here, and then eventually works its way off the fairgrounds there.
And then from David, he's afraid he doesn't want this water going alongside of the road.
Sounds like a road guy.
We dig that out, make a little fish pond. I mean. Now, is there a,
Orientation.
yeah, I mean, because is that good that the fields are right there?
One thing here, you got Highway 75.
Yeah.
And right now you got everybody parking there on the right of way of Highway 75. If you could get them off that right of way from parking there.
My little brain done short circuit.
We've got
You want the north orientation out there? You gotta have the north side.
Reed's getting fidgety. We're upside down.
North's gotta be north.
Hey, David,
Yeah, that picture was upside down. Geez,
Oh,
I was having problems trying to figure it out.
all right. Does that help?
It does.
Okay, good.
After everything that's been said, I just want to make a comment about centralizing all this stuff. Like everyone has kind of commented about the fields and the splash pad and so on and so forth. I'm gonna be selfish also. I want to make a comment that as you all know, I'm always about development, new development and whatever. But I don't want to forget that we need to finish the Loma Linda Park also. Okay, I want to make that point.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Supervisor Gomez, because it's on our agenda to visit with you about orienting that field as well. Tony and I have been talking about, there's now apps where you can get out there and figure out where the sun is going to come up every day out of the year. And so we need to get out there on the ground with you and figure out the best way to orient that field. We've now got the well water to support grass out there. And we need to get moving on that. Of course, we already own the fencing to build the field. So
Yes.
yes, that's on our tier 1 capital improvement for this year.
And especially with this meeting that's going to follow this one with Seago, with RTAC and the bridge that Reed is working on the design and so on and so forth between Loma Linda and Verde Lee is going to be funded next July. So, and we're proposing to have that bridge built where kids can come from Verde Lee and Loma Linda can go to Verde Lee, and kids from Verde Lee can come to Loma Linda to that park and ride their bikes and have a trails and accommodate that bridge for that purpose. So that's why I'm bringing this up.
Yes, and I appreciate you reminding us of that.
Okay.
Reed.
But I'm good with everything you guys are discussing here. This would be great.
Tony, you're the facilities guy. Can we have this done by January 1st?
Reed, do you have a preferred design of what you feel like is best fitting for the area?
I don't. I told Derek before I would defer to Tony and David. I feel like that make it work for down that side against Highway 75 around cycle to the third now. So from an engineering point of view, I think we should listen.
David, do you have a suggestion on how you feel like layout would go well?
Buckle up.
That's what we're here for, right? Is to have some input.
I do. My mom taught me growing up that my big mouth would get me in trouble.
We'll move it around.
This is what I had talked to them about. This corner right here, if we were to go with the ball field here, because of the park already being here, I've talked to several parents, they like the park next to the ball field because they can watch the ball game and watch the kids play at the same time.
That was their thought.
My thoughts were, we got a park here, a ball field here. If we move these parks in this area right here, we throw our splash pad in
That way.
Sorry about
Don't
that.
mess with me, you're good.
Throw our splash pad, and what's this one?
That's a playground, so it would remain, right?
So you throw our splash pad in between the ball fields and the park right there. It's already made. The arena.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on the second?
This arena one here, the work that we did down here at the bottom was originally designed so that we could have another arena down here, and this would feed both sides. For the state of Arizona, in order to have a high school rodeo, you have to have
2 arenas down a high school rodeo. We have the chute, our old chute here, roping chute that would go here. So that you could do the roping, the breakaway roping and all that in this arena. My other thoughts is on this one here, you'll have all this over here as parking. You got the water here, you got all your power coming down the side right here, so all your power is already there. I think it'd be more cost efficient. On this side here, our road coming in. This yard here, we got all this area right here for a yard. We can cut that, bring our road. Because they were worried about 191 right there, so we could bring our road in. Right through here in between the middle of both of them.
And this
So
would
that-
exist, right?
Yeah, this would be gone right here. We'd bring our road in right here. And that would separate. Your ball games and everything over here, your parks and everything over here. Your recreational, and then over here you keep all your agriculture. What worries me about this. I don't know if you guys have been at the rodeos, the team ropings and all that. This right here,
Never been to one.
this right here is full of horse trailers. This is full of horse trailers. If we move all that over here and this here, we're gonna park over here and send them all the way over here. I got nothing against the ball fields. I played baseball for Mason Community College in '83. I love the game. I'm all for it. The other thing, if I'm gonna be completely honest, I'm with Dave on that. I have not talked to Dave. It's 4 ball fields too much. I'd like to see one in Loma Linda, one at the bottom of Ward's Canyon. Our girls in Valencia High School have been to the semifinals 3 years in a row. We have nowhere for them to practice in Berta Lee, Loma Linda. Will that make a difference? Maybe. Maybe not.
Get them all done. I mean, I like the fourplex idea. I think that's great because I think we want to encourage
Tournament,
little league tournaments.
Bobby saw.
Yeah, all of that stuff.
And without them, you can't.
And I'd rather have too many than too little, but I mean, we've been talking about Loma Linda's park for a long time, and I think that's very, very important. I think the Ward's Canyon might be a water issue that kind of delayed that for us, but no, I like that, and I like the fields being up here kind of where they were, rather than over here where you have to deal with drainage. I understand having the arena right there, so it seems both, and that makes total sense.
You know, I want to make a comment on the comment. Yeah, I want to make a comment on the comment David just made on the 4 ball fields. Do we really have the numbers down there to utilize 4 ball fields? I'm not disparaging anything, but that's my concern. That's a lot of. Go ahead.
But so David, just for my take on it, being down there and kind of talking with some of the users is. You have the softball that's needing a field, right? They don't have a field, so that's one field that's gonna be taken pretty heavily. Little League, they're looking to do fields too. So I don't think it's so much of that it's a use thing. I think they will get used. I think they'll probably use all 4 of them fairly. If they're good fields, I think it'll be pretty consistent. I just know up here in Morenci, we're helping out coach the little kids football, and you can't find a field, right? They don't exist. We're taking any piece of grass we can find, even if it's half dirt, right? Because you need something. So I don't think that will be an issue of use. I think it'll get used, and if it's a nice facility, it's really gonna get used.
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah. The Ward's Canyon field, we've checked into that. The infrastructure's there. The challenge is the water. Morenci Water and Electric has a line or had a line that ran across, I think, the upriver side of the crossing there. And every time there's a high water event, it gets taken out. So they've been reluctant to replace that to get water to that ball field. It works just fine for a practice field. It's all dirt. It's certainly not, anybody's favorite, but getting grass established there will have its own challenges because of the water supply issue. But I mean, Is it impossible? No, just something to consider.
I wonder what are the takes on this too, just so you guys know. I know that, the schools is on board with this. Little League would also be willing to partner on this down there. Of course, us as the county. But there is a pretty substantial user group that's interested in it. Some of that's even been, at least, talking about possibly United Way. What are some of the options to help out to get there?
Defray the cost.
And David, this is not confrontational, but sometimes we ask the south part of the county to come up to the north side of the counties because that's the only place there's facilities. That can go the other way too. I think if you have a facility there, and yes, I think what you're talking about needs to be done. But if you have a facility down here, they'll come from the north because they'll want to use them for tournaments and things like that. And that's why we want our ball fields to be built well and maintained well. And I truly believe that they will be used by the whole county, just as our ball fields up here right now, because they're the only ones are used by the whole county.
No, I agree. I agree. And still on the subject of ball fields, the other night I was coming through Clifton at night, and I noticed that the lights were on at the Clifton football field. Okay, that's part of the property of FMI now, and I was wondering what was going on there, and I pulled over there by the old gym, the metal building gym that sits right above that football field. And what was going on there? There must have been about three teams of soccer players practicing there. It might behoove us to even get a hold of FMI. I know that when that school went down, we went and approached them and told them not to do away with those facilities because they were there already, and let's put them to good use. Maybe it's time to visit them again and do something with that football field there.
It's we kind of laugh. I find myself laughing at it, except I know people are starting to do this now. Pickleball is actually something people care about a lot. Not me, but what your point, David, is exactly right. There are a lot of uses. And the thing that got me started thinking about this entire project to begin with is we've got a pretty large footprint down there, but it's not so large that you couldn't build stuff in a compact way, manage parking, and have some activities. But right now we've got great big swaths of this area that are by and large unused. And whether, the location of the fields and so forth, what I would like, if we could, is if the board is comfortable with the concept, to go ahead and I'm reluctant to go out and find partners and commit to them if we're not wanting to try and make this work.
No, I agree, Derek. I'm not disagreeing.
No, I agree. Yeah, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
But you had never heard about this till today, and so I wanted to make sure that you and Supervisor Campbell were aware of what we've been kicking around.
Well, I think this is also way overdue there for Duncan. This, with the property there around the fairgrounds and everything, that's the ideal location, and I totally agree with this.
There's a lot of potential.
Yes.
I think we all agree that.
Yeah.
What I'd like to see is having this same activity, but with a couple of user groups, right? Having the softball, or baseball,
See what they come up with.
Have a couple of members in here,
Yes.
have a couple of members there, a couple of members from the rodeo community, Lindsay with the fair, and maybe a couple of people that,
For sure.
those people that know the
Yes.
issues, you talked about that somebody had mentioned that hey, that parking over there, you really don't want it, it's insufficient, so let's not do that, or let's make that picture bigger and put it somewhere else. But I think having those, because they're the experts,
They're the users.
yeah, they're the users, but if we can get a couple of players from each one of these user type groups, and maybe a parent of a softball, baseball, little league player, of saying, well, if the park was over here, it'd be great, or something like that.
May I make a suggestion? The we limit that to one. If you get too big of a group,
Yeah.
you'll never get consensus. Right.
But the concept of getting the users, I mean,
I,
Chairman Lunt points out often, we built the South Annex, we were almost ready to break ground and nobody had talked to the users. And that resulted in some design changes that have really been helpful. And so, yeah, if we build this great thing and no one uses it because we oriented the fields wrong or we put them in the wrong place, then we've shot ourselves in the foot. So I like that idea. And we could assemble and identify that user group so that we can play this same game and shift things around.
And I think the nice part, like you said, about having users, as long as we don't get too many to your comment, Supervisor Lunt, I think you really do get some of those uses, right? I can tell you in that meeting, they were talking about a one entrance, and even on Dave's plan, whatever plan that looks like, is how do we accommodate that in the structure, right? And try to build it to make it where all the groups get the best use out of it, right?
and Lindsay will have a lot of
We'll have a whole lot of
because
good input on
she
it.
has to manage that. But and she'll talk about, because during the rodeo and stuff, there's horses and there's just people galore here, and there's horses here all the time. We haven't had a wreck
I'd
yet,
mitigate that.
but it's gonna happen. And
Can we get this laminated, and that way we get some dry erase markers and people can, I mean.
Yes.
Because maybe this isn't big enough, but maybe you make it bigger and.
We can absolutely get some of these printed and yeah, we can laminate a few of them
that way they
and we can
be
start
drawn
playing
on.
around.
Dry erase markers and wipe them off.
we have to give kudos to Mr. Larson. We said, hey, find out highball what this would cost. And he came up with this stuff so we could throw things around to this, so we know how it fits. And Reed, thank you very, very much. And David, he's the one that brought up a lot of these things because he's working the dirt. He's there, him and his people, and we need to bring Lindsay in line. But I guarantee you might see me hanging from trees when we start tearing down that race track, because there's still believers
out there, right?
There's still believers out there, and so I hope you have a sharp knife and you come quickly.
I mean, but even thinking that when you take out this track area, then might expand the grandstands a little closer to the arena, stuff like that.
You're gonna have to put up a fence.
Yeah.
But your point is well taken, is that when you begin to reimagine the whole area as a park, then you're not bound by the current curve. You're not bound by the current. There's things you can do and say, there's a better way to do this. Whereas right now, you kind of look at this and say, well, we park here and we park here. Why? Because that's there. And
Why is it there?
well, because 70 years ago when they built it, that was the thing.
Right.
Race horses. Now you can gamble at the convenience store with a lottery ticket and they're just not the same market.
It would be easier to.
I'll throw in my 2 cents landscape architecture work here is that one of the things in the process of doing this, the first thing you really want to do is a site analysis. And it's just usually done, and even the laminated ones will work well. I recommend several copies of them.
Right.
You want to keep your earlier things. We always did it with buff paper, and then you hang on to those old ones until you're entirely done. But you want to get a site analysis so you know which direction the breezes are coming from, the sun direction, where the traffic noise is. That's your first thing you work on, is what are that. So you want to identify your opportunities and constraints. And that gives you going on that. And then you want to have that list of all the things going on. And then we always would do a function diagram. And that is, okay, this is going to be the ballpark area. Just like the Mylars are there. And you do that, but you want to force yourself to do at least 3. Because you'll find some idea of each of those that you'll want to carry through. If you go too quickly to what is the final thing, you're going to skip some good ideas. So make yourself do 3 function diagrams. Even if you got to sit up and say, I can't think of any other way to do this other than this, make yourself do 3 entire different ones. And then you'd have those to present to some of these groups. And then you would get feedback a little quicker without having to have
Everybody reinvent the wheel.
right. And then they might come up with a 4th one yet that you hadn't thought about. And you want to, again, that site analysis needs to include all of the underground things that you don't see, power lines, all this kind of stuff.
The wells. you
The
know,
wells.
And I think
Didn't
Put
you
your
put a
red dot-
sewer line
Park
there
there.
someplace, David, you
Yeah.
were talking about?
they're putting an inline in.
Well,
Right,
Oh,
that new, that whole.
the sewer line is down here, but there's a water line that,
Oh, a water
that runs
Right.
across there.
And you know-
Different ways, 'cause I mean, even with, well, you can put a jet pumps, I mean, the actual hole doesn't.
Those are septic tanks right there.
Right.
That's a leach field, isn't it?
That's the
Yeah.
kind of thing you want to have on
Is
your
that a
site
leach
analysis, so
septic?
it doesn't get forgotten.
We're gonna probably. we could-
It's easy to forget it
Where the grass
otherwise.
is always green.
I like the, yeah, I like the idea. I think we-
Mhm.
So can staff start moving forward and I can start finding partners and find financial partners and because if we've got at least the kind of tentative funds up, we can start moving a little quicker.
Momentum, we've gotta keep moving forward, so.
Okay,
Improve the.
Do it.
We want these built by the first of the year, right, David?
Oh, yeah.
why
Let's
wait
do
that
it.
long? Let's do it for Thanksgiving.
Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Let's get, you know, he'll be happy if we get Lobo in the park done
That's
by the
right.
first of the year. I just can follow.
Sounds good.
Well, the school, you know, and the
All right, I'm gonna
schools.
Set this video down.
Okay. Anything else?
Tired.
Anything else, Dave?
No, I'm good.
Thank you, members of the board, and thank you for all the staff, because there's been some time put in on this, but we really were to a point where we really couldn't do any more until the board was okay with the idea. And so we can now develop the idea, develop all aspects of it, and see if we can turn up something that'll work for folks.
And we have an in-house landscape architecture,
That's right.
you know.
Gotta finish your
plant
kitty
some
And the
trees.
Manus and I will arm wrestle over the location of the arena, except he'll beat me, so.
Yeah, let's just call that a lawn. but-
Well, I think
And circulation pattern must always be part of your, a real. important
Yeah,
part,
how do you get in and out of these?
How's the flow?
Critical part of any function diagram.
And I think Lindsay,
Yes.
they will bring something, and I think. Cause she
That's why you have to
deals with this all the time.
Okay.
Don't lock yourself in too soon.
Well,
We're done.
pardon?
I said, get her done.
Okay, thank you.
We have the user, you know, kind of the user meeting down at the. annex.
Right, right there, you could get up and walk out. I think it's a great idea.
And we did the improvements to the arena. We sent out a monkey survey. And then we sent out for the town.
We got some good input here.
Yeah, we got some really good input. And then we gave a presentation and we had 30 some people show up. Good.
So I think we do something similar, but I do like Jane's suggestion. Some of this is, you know, one of the things to keep that, you know, we're talking about having too many users and too many pools is let's have some options on the table. So it's not just free for all. Right? So we kind of fund that, what that looks like, right? And that doesn't mean some of those things don't change, but we like Jane's suggestion, there's some good options on the table. We start bringing that
We
in.
sent it to the users.
And you know, we might laugh at pickleball. It's unbelievable. 80-year-old people out there playing pickleball. You cannot get a court. They sign up weeks in advance to get courts to play pickleball. 85-year-olds, you know, you don't want to look out there in their shorts and.
David Manus and I already have a date to go play each other. And on horseback.
Okay, if there's nothing else, appreciate all the involvement in this, and all I can say is let's get her done, guys.
They have these new type of things called computers now. You can actually put that up on the thing and it moves little.
But I wouldn't understand that.
Hey, I've heard about them, I don't know.
And buff paper, so it just do all those hard, any hard and hard. I have some.
I understand I can buy an napkin from Amazon. That's all we have. Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
that's nothing else. This work session is, make sure there's nothing else on it. So thank you, everyone involved in the work session, and we'll go ahead and close this Board of Supervisors meeting.